And it's come to a head in recent days, the tanking problem. And tanking's an issue for both the NBA and the NFL. It's just more of a problem in the NBA. There's more games. The teams that have no chance, they know it sooner. And then when you've got a year where there are desirable incoming players, and apparently this year there are 3 must-have players who are in the draft pool, some teams are going to try to not win games. They're going to sit healthy players, load management, or whatever other excuse they'll give. And last week, the NBA busted 2 of the teams, the Utah Jazz, $500,000, the Indiana Pacers, $100,000 in fines for not playing healthy players. And Adam Silver had a press conference on Saturday in conjunction with the All-Star weekend, and he acknowledged the basic problem, and it applies to the NBA and the NFL. The incentives are misaligned because in theory, you have an incentive to win every single game you play, whether you're a contender for a championship or not. That's how they want it to be. They want the integrity to be pure. They want the competition to be unquestioned. In every given game, in any given game, both teams are trying their damnedest to win. That's what they're selling. And that becomes more important in an age of widespread, legalized, normalized, and highly profitable gambling. You need people to think that every game is on the up and up, that no one has any motivation other than to win. But if you're thinking about the future, and Adam Silver laid it all out. See, the NFL will never even talk about this. Their approach is pretend that the incentives aren't misaligned. They have a firewall between what it means to be really bad and what it means to parade around as the team that holds the top pick in the draft. Because the draft for the NFL has become this all-encompassing, ultimate traveling reality show about nothing. They could do it by group text. They've turned it into this thing that's going to draw hundreds of thousands of people, and they fudge the numbers. We'll talk about that more when they start saying how many hundreds of thousands attended the draft in Pittsburgh, just like they did it last year and just like they'll do it every year, because they want to make it seem like a bigger deal than it is, so it continues to become a bigger deal. I better get to the draft. It's a pilgrimage. Oh, the draft is only 100 miles away. I better go. I better go to the draft. Everybody who's anybody is going to the draft. And they've made it something so big that it's unassailable. And the one potentially fatal flaw is the reality that someone could engage in tanking so blatant and so obvious that it will lead to consequences, whether it's congressional investigation, legislation, regulation, prosecution, litigation, whatever it may be. Because the fundamental problem, and this issue has kind of broken through to mainstream. I saw somebody on one of the cable news channels this weekend making the argument that there should be a racketeering investigation of the NBA teams that aren't trying to win, because the whole premise of gambling is both teams in every game are trying to win. But that's out there. It's out there. And yes, am I the only one that is banging this drum? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm going to keep banging it because I feel like the NFL right now, and the NBA may be in this same boat. I don't know. I don't cover it. The game, I think, is make as much money as possible from gambling. And what's coming next? Prediction markets. Make as much money as you can before the reckoning inevitably arrives. Delay the reckoning as long as you can. But until then, you'll make as much money as you can, and you'll deal with the reckoning when it comes. And when the reckoning comes, it won't be nearly as bad as it should be, given everything we've done before the reckoning. I mean, that's basically what's gone on in college sports. That's the current chaos in college sports in a nutshell. The universities under the umbrella of the NCAA were able to delay the reckoning that they need to pay the players for decades. And the house caved in a few years ago. And of course now, oh, it's someone else's fault, not ours, that we had these antitrust violations that deprived the players of fair payment for years and years and years and years. So it'll be different, but similar when the reckoning comes for the NFL, the NBA, and gambling. They'll act surprised. They'll blame someone else. And at the end of the day, the reality is they ignored the problem because they were making too much money. And there's only one way to fix this. I wrote this yesterday at PFT. You have to make sure that the incentives aren't misaligned. You have to remove the incentive to tank. And I don't know the right way to do it. There are easy ways to do it. You tie the draft order to a straight lottery, top to bottom. Every team's in it with an equal shot to have the first overall pick in the draft. Put that on TV. See how that does in prime time on a 3-letter network. Are you kidding me? The NFL draft lottery with all 32 teams having an equal shot at the top pick. But that's the only way to take a team like the Raiders, who they shut down Max Crosby with a couple of games left, even though he thought he could still play. Coincidentally, they needed to lose in order to win the ability to draft Fernando Mendoza or trade that pick for plenty of other draft picks in an effort to make their team better. So that's an easy way to do it. Some have suggested that the Super Bowl champion should have the first pick in the draft. Now, that completely goes against this idea, and this is where the whole thing comes from. We want to have competitive balance. So how do we create competitive balance? We give the worst team first shot at the next crop of incoming players, and we work our way down accordingly. And one of the reasons I think the NFL doesn't have a draft lottery, they just don't want to acknowledge in any way, directly or indirectly, that there's ever an incentive to tank. So if we never have a draft lottery, which in and of itself would be incredibly profitable and would generate millions of eyeballs if it was just like the NBA's current draft lottery, that's why they won't do it. They want to keep us from realizing the connection between losing and winning as it relates to the draft. And this isn't going away. They need a solution. They need to revolutionize the process in order to ensure that in every single game, both teams will be trying to win. There's never any consideration. And the people who argue against tanking, no player is ever going to go out and try to lose a game. That's not how it works. Someone higher up on the food chain makes the decision that we want to evaluate the backup quarterback. We want to see how these young players perform under the guise of we put the lesser players on the field and nature takes its course. Hell, we've lost plenty of games with our best players. Let's put our lesser players out there and we can ease in to the parking spot of one of the top picks in the draft. And just look at what teams give up to move a few spots in the top 10. There's value. There's real value in being bad. And as I've said time and again, who really remembers if you were 4-13 or 3-14 or 2-15? If you don't make the playoffs, it doesn't matter. So why not be as bad as you can be in the hopes of being good in the future? It's a simple economic proposition. Adam Silver acknowledged that. Analytics are involved. There is a reason to not try to win. We just need to take that away. And there'll still be a draft, although I don't think there should be. That's a different topic for a different day. And I think the NFL would be fine without one. But you just have to come up with a different way to figure out picks 1 through 32, because the current way is leaving the door open for a major problem that will undermine the integrity of the game and that will cause all sorts of expenses and worry and consequences for the people who are involved in whatever the first big scandal is as it relates to tanking. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.